What the heck is up, you guys? It's your boy Ace, aka Animated Heroes here, back with another action figure review. And as you guys can see, today we are here about to review my favorite character from My Hero Academia, Shoto Todoroki. Let's not waste no time. Let's go ahead and get right into it, starting off with that sexy packaging. Now for the sexy packaging, as you guys can see, we got the window right here where you can see the figure, some of the accessories, the face plates, and so far so good. He looks really nice. Does say figure complex right there, amazing Yamaguchi. The theme is red, yellow, and blue to kind of, I guess it's symbolism for his quirk, which makes sense because he's ice and fire. We've got a dope image of him right here. It says Shoto Todoroki right there, My Hero Academia right there. At the top, it does say his name one more time, amazing Yamaguchi. We got a dope image of him right there. I really love that. At the bottom, we got another like clueless image of him right there. I really love the images that Revoltech put on their box. Bunch of stuff that I can't read, warnings, choking hazards, barcodes, all that good stuff. Image of him on the side, checking his phone, looking really cool. Then we got this side where he's in full-blown attack mode, looking dope once again. And then we've got some images from the anime behind the actual figure. Then, of course, on the back, we've got this figure in all its greatness. We've got some of the faceplates, some of the accessories, some of the other figures from the line. Here you can see all of the accessories and then more Japanese stuff that I can't read. So anyway, this figure has been delayed long enough. Let's bust this guy out and see what he's all about. Now, straight out of the package, here is my boy Shoto in all his greatness. And I gotta say, I really am digging this figure. Now, that being said, there are definitely some things to talk about. First off, the delay of this figure, man. Jeez, I swear this thing was supposed to release in December of 2021. And now here we are in June of 2022. So 6 months delay it's outrageous. And I mean, if it helps the company to get the figure right, I'm not gonna complain. We all know what it's like if you collect Mafex. There's a delay on just about everything that they release, so it's to be expected. Now, I do want to go ahead and get one thing out of the way. The question I know everyone wants to know, is it better than the Figma? In my opinion, I am going to say yes, but that doesn't mean that this guy doesn't have some problems. So let's go ahead and talk about it. First thing I want to get out of the way. I don't know what it is, but I am not the biggest fan of this head sculpt. The hair is fine, but the face, something just doesn't look like Todoroki. And I don't really like how glossy this figure is either. They did that same thing with, I think, all of the My Hero figures, now that I mention it. I think All Might's that way, Deku's that way, and Bakugo. I really wish that they would kind of, I don't know, give these a little bit more of a matte finish. The eyes, something about the eyes, and I guess just the way his mouth looks, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. I mean, you can look at it and tell it's Todoroki. I do feel like the left side of his hair is a tad bit too dark. I'll just show some artwork so you guys can see. Usually the hair is a bit lighter, and I've noticed companies like even McFarlane have gone very dark on this side of the hair. It's not supposed to match the scar. The scar is darker, and this is coming from a big My Hero Academia fan, so obviously I'm going to point out some things most people might not even notice, but it's just me critiquing a figure. It's not to say it's bad, but it's saying that it's not perfect. Now, one thing I also want to mention is, if this is your first Revoltech figure, I try to say this in every review, aesthetics in certain areas might not be pleasing. I'm not really the biggest fan of these elbows, but I mean, as you guys can see, they work very effective. I just don't like this gap look right here. Whenever you try to turn the arm or whatever, you kind of got to move the shoulder to make it look right, but then you get the gaps in the shoulder. I don't like that. I really wish they would figure out a way to incorporate their articulation and fix this ugly shoulder joint. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, it works. You can get it in the poses you want it to, but then it's very unsatisfying to look at depending on how you have it posed. Articulation wise, it works, but there's nothing to cover up those ugly joints. And so that is one big issue that I have. I mention that with every Revoltech. I just like to throw it in the video so people who this might be their first time collecting one of these are very aware of it. Now, moving on down, and I'm getting all of my problems out of the way first. I do want to mention I don't like the knee either, because if you bend this guy's knee, there is nothing in there hiding all of that ugliness. I don't like that. I really wish they would have did like, I don't know, like an extra padding piece, kind of like SHF does. I believe Figma does it sometimes, because, I mean, yeah, you can pose the knee, but it will look very ugly when you bend it, no matter how you do it. And sometimes, depending on how pushed in these gaps are, it gives you even more area. As you guys just saw, I kind of pushed the joint in there. But yeah, anyway, getting all the bad out of the way, I'll get to all of the good. This does look like Todoroki's outfit straight out of the anime. I really am digging all the sculpt work, the line work, the detail. No shading or anything like that, but as you can see, everything does look pretty flush. The paint is very clean. He's got all his little pouches and coolants on him, his belt, all the way down to the boots. He looks pretty good, and so that's one thing I will say. He does look very good, and I'm impressed with the height on this guy as well. But anyway, not to ramble on, because we just started the video. I just wanted to throw everything out there. Let's go ahead and put this guy back so we can see how tall he stands. Before I forget, I do also want to mention that in case you're someone who wants to put the Figma head on this body, it is not going to work, because the Figma head is actually on a Figma hinge, and this is on a double ball peg. So unless you're really good at doing some crazy modifications, it's not going to work. I don't have the Figma anymore. I got rid of that one. I just was not feeling that figure because of the height. But yeah, I wanted to throw that out there. It's not going to work unless you're good at modding. And proportionate wise, I don't even think it would work anyway, because it's going to look like the head's too small. Now, when it comes to the height of Todoroki to the top of his head, as you guys can see, he stands just a little bit over 5.5 inches. So very decent size. I mean, he's only 15, 16 years old, so it does make sense. And if you want to see how he scales with other figures from the line, of course, I will be showing that off later as well. Now, moving on to articulation, you guys already know we have a lot to talk about. First off, before I even show the head, I do want to show this little piece right here, which is the back of his hair, which it kind of looks ugly if you just have it sitting like this and you have him facing this way, because you can see a little gapping in there. But it does help when it comes to helping him look up, because as you guys can see, he can look all the way in the air. His head does look or his neck rather, does look a little bit long when you do it like that, but if you just want to get like some neutral looking up poses, that doesn't look bad. And if you remember, he was looking up in the second opening, and that was a pretty dope scene when he was training, and yeah, you can get that out of him. He does look down very well, does get really good tilt and turn as expected. Arms do work pretty well, not as much as I would want them to, but he can hit a T-pose just fine. He can bring them all the way in. I know I showed that earlier, but yes, they can come all the way in for any kind of pose you want to get him into. Of course, he does have a built-in swivel, single jointed elbow, but it works like a double joint. You just gotta play with it and make it work. As you can see, it bends all the way in. So yeah. And I know, I've said it a million times, Revoltech joints can look ugly, but they are very effective. He also has a swivel right here at the elbow. His hands, excuse me, are, if I can get them off of here. Let's see, I know they're on a hinge. I want to show that off, but it's not one to come off. There we go, got it. Watch for that. That is a separate piece. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, glad that I was able to show you guys. So yes, hand on a hinge, you kind of just got to wiggle it off of there, and it does move around very, very well. As far as the diaphragm joint, Very effective. He doesn't lean back very much. He does lean forward very far. Now, when it comes to getting him to lean back, it doesn't really move back very much. As you can see, that piece is touching that piece. So, yeah, moving back isn't going to work. Moving forward is a different story because he can literally touch his toes just fine. And he does have a really great waist swivel also. This right here, his belt, can be separated depending on the pose you're trying to get him into. Some of these containers are also on a swivel, so you can move them around. I feel like that's unnecessary, but it does help whenever you're getting him in certain poses. Like, for instance, if you want him to kick outward, you don't have to worry about that being in the way. So he can kick outward just fine. He can do the splits just fine. Very, very well. He does have a built-in thigh swivel. I showed the knee. It's very effective, but it is kind of ugly. I wish he had a boot swivel. He doesn't, but he does have a swivel at the knee. Foot goes down about that much, up about that much, and you can move this around in case you don't want that to be sticking out like that. I really think that's good. They should have did that with All Might. He does have ankle rocker, and he does have very stiff toe hinge, but it is there. So articulation wise, one thing I gotta say about this guy, right? They took some of the mistakes that they made with Deku and Bakugo, where pieces were just falling off of them like crazy, and they fixed that. So that's one thing I'm happy about, because my Deku's legs were falling off and my Deku's head was falling off. I don't have that issue with this guy at all. Now, if you're digging this figure so far, I will say that it only gets better because, as we all know, Revoltech is known for overloading us when it comes to accessories. As you guys can see, he comes with several different sets of hands. We have some smaller ice pieces. He comes with 3 of those. He comes with an interchangeable hair piece where it's blowing and his fire side is activated. He comes with 8 different heads, which is crazy. Honestly, I thought that these were just going to be interchangeable eyes. I'm kind of glad they didn't go that route. Most of them are just a neutral expression. We only have 3 that show like any kind of emotion coming from him. I really wish we would have got a smile from him, but oh well, they didn't include that. We do get 3 different fire pieces, and I think these are the same effect. And then you do also get 2 different ice pieces as well, which once again, I think these are just about the exact same sculpt. But still, that is not all that we get with this guy. We also do get some comic book effects, and if you're wondering why I call them that, it's because, for those of you who don't know, Horikoshi, who is the artist for My Hero Academia, is very inspired by comic books. He loves them, and he says he based Deku off of Spider-Man, or certain characteristics of Spider-Man, and so we do get a waku effect. We get a whoosh, and then a flaming whoosh. So yeah, these are coming with pretty much every My Hero Academia figure we get, and I'm all about it. I love these. They definitely look good in photos, or if you just want to pose them with these on your shelf, it still looks good. So glad that they included these. And after messing around with my accessories, I did realize that I still actually have the accessories from my McFarlane Todoroki. I didn't really care for the fire effect, but I do think this ice effect looks really cool. So if you do have that version, it works very well with this figure and looks good enough. Now, moving on to size comparisons, I think when we get to this portion, this is where we run into what I would consider our first almost critical error, because as you guys can see, proportion-wise, I don't think this is how Deku and Bakugo are supposed to stand next to Todoroki. Todoroki is taller than Deku for sure, and they got that part right, but I still think he's supposed to be a tad bit taller than this. Like, Deku is not extremely shorter than him, but I mean, it's a bit of a height difference, and I feel like these are a little too close in scale. Also, I feel like Bakugo, proportion wise, is a little bit bigger than he should be when in comparison to Todoroki. Now, comparing them to Deku, I think that they did a great job, but Todoroki's proportions and height just seem very off in this line. Now, maybe once you mix them up in photos, it's not something that'll be extremely noticeable, but vanilla poses, I think this is very noticeable. So this is one I did want to spend some time discussing. They do look great together, but proportion wise, it's not very accurate. Now, if you do want to mix your figures in and get a little bit of accuracy, this is what I think is the route to go. Here he is standing next to all of the Figmas that have been released. We have Deku, Ochiko, and of course Kirishima. I think this looks a whole lot better when it comes to the proportions and height on these guys. I think this is exactly what it's supposed to be. Granted, Deku should be a tad bit shorter, but this works. I think this works just fine. Now, I do feel like Todoroki should be bulked up just a little bit, but still, you can finagle this just fine. And this is one of those reasons that I always recommend collecting both lines if there is two separate companies making a single figure line. I always recommend that because if you mix and match certain lines, they can look very good together, as I think these do. Now, going out of whack a little bit and getting into the 7-inch scale, here he is standing next to a couple of McFarlane figures. We do have the McFarlane Aizawa, which granted, he's definitely a little bit too tall, but you can finagle some shots between these guys and they wouldn't look too bad standing next to one another. We do have the Endeavor, which I think honestly this is exactly the height that we'll probably see the Revoltech version because they made All Might huge. And Endeavor is close to the same height as him. So this is what we should expect with the Revoltech also. So I think that works well. Shigaraki definitely too tall, but we know how it goes down at McFarlane. Scale is probably of least importance to them. Lastly, for some other stuff, here he is standing next to an SH Figure Arts Full Power Super Saiyan Goku, a Figma Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Tanjiro Kamado, and the SH Figure Arts Jujutsu Kaisen Greatness Yuji Itadori, which for some reason I always have him posed as Sukuna. I don't know why. Now, when it comes to this figure, I will go ahead and I will keep it a buck with you guys. Yes, I had some things to talk about when it came to this figure. There are some things that I don't like about it, but that being said, there are way more good things than bad things. If you're someone who came here for a specific answer, wanting to know whether this figure is better than the Figma version, the answer is yes. Hands down, in my opinion. The only thing I think Figma did better was probably the faceplates. That's about it. But in terms of posability, accessories, articulation, this has it in all the rest of those departments. And honestly, once you really start posing this guy around, this figure just becomes that much better. Not that it's a bad figure in the first place, but when you're just kind of handling it in a vanilla pose, it's like, this is okay figure, it's decent, whatever. But once you start posing this guy around and you're adding accessories, the flames, the ice, all the different hands, all the different expressions, this figure it instantly turns into, I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10, but I'm not even going to give it a 9, but I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Granted, this is my favorite character, so yes, opinions might be a little bit biased, but I mean, you guys already know what to expect when it comes to Revoltech figures, unless this is your first. The joints are going to look ugly in certain areas. I just mentioned that for people that don't know, but I already expect that in every single purchase I make, so I know. But yes, this is a dope figure. If you don't have it, you tripping, bro. Like, you are tripping, especially if you've got Bakugo and you got Deku. Now, while I'm on the topic of those two, I said it once, I'll say it again. This figure takes what those two started as and they just make it so much better. I haven't had any QC issues. Knock on wood, I had to add that to the video. I haven't had any QC issues, nothing popping off, nothing coming loose, nothing really frustrates me about this figure. And if that's what took them an extra 4 or 5 months to get prepared, I'm fine with that. So yes, I do recommend picking this up if it's a figure that you're looking at, because you guys have seen what happens with these. Bakugo sold out, Deku sold out, and All Might sold out. All of them going for like $200-300, and if you get the reissues, then you're lucky. So don't sleep on this guy. I'm telling y'all right now. I'm trying not to ramble, but don't sleep on this guy. Anyway, that is my review. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If so, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. You know that always helps me out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure to hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I upload new content. And lastly, follow me on everything you see listed in the description below to keep up with my activity outside of YouTube. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe wherever you are. And bye. More reviews coming.